He agreed to appear for a closed-door interview, just arriving, and my next guest issued a subpoena to compel that appearance. That subpoena is not necessary now. Bob Goodlatte, chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, with me now. You're going to be key in this questioning of Peter Strzok, and good morning to you, and thank you for your time, sir.
Thanks, Bill.
Do you want to tip your hand? What's your question?
No, we have lots of questions, and I think your viewers have been following this and know the construct here. Peter Strzok is at the center of a great deal of controversy with regard to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, both with regard to the investigation into former Secretary of State and presidential candidate Hillary Clinton and into the so-called Trump-Russia investigation, and his bias reflected in the text that he exchanged with Lisa Page, another FBI employee, are just absolutely stunning. So you can imagine we'll be asking a lot of questions about that bias and about his role in both those investigations.
Let me ask you a specific question.
Sure.
You believe he was biased, right? That's clear based on your
Absolutely.
answer there. Did that bias influence the decisions he made within the FBI directing agents to go in a direction or perhaps more than one or two directions investigating the Trump campaign because of that bias?
Those questions will be asked, and we're very interested in hearing his answers. But I will tell you that the bias, which was clearly against Donald Trump and for Hillary Clinton, is reflected in the actions that were taken by the FBI in both those investigations. They leaned over backwards to give her special treatment that no other criminal suspect would receive. And in the Trump case, they leaned forward to launch an investigation, the roots of which we need to learn a lot more about.
Did Peter Strzok fill the application out for the FISA warrant that was later used to surveil Carter Page, sir?
I have to be very careful about answering questions regarding documents that are classified, so I think I'll pass on that. Let me just say that he was heavily involved in that investigation.
Was there, I apologize, maybe there's another way to phrase this then, respecting the bounds by which you're trying to operate here. Was there anyone within the agency who was more central than Peter Strzok on the Russia investigation as it relates to the Trump campaign?
That's a great question. We're certainly going to ask that of him. But from what we know at this point, he was a central figure, perhaps the central figure, in both investigations.
Okay. I understand he's a talker. He likes to explain himself. I imagine if I were him, I'd like to explain myself as well. Have you ever met him?
We'll be there to listen, and we have lots of questions that we'd like to listen to his answers to.
All right. Have you ever met him, sir?
I have not.
Okay. And based on his reputation, what have you heard about him?
I think that he has a long-term reputation of being a very effective counterintelligence agent, and that reflected in how both these cases were handled caused us to have a lot of questions about the nature of his conduct in each of those investigations, reflected in bias that he expressed in his private email and text.
How much did that IG report that reflected bias, how much did that affect what you're doing on the House side in your committee?
It's a tremendous help to us because while we have been working in the same direction, the Inspector General had access to a lot of documents and a lot of witnesses a lot earlier than we did. So the Inspector General's report and his testimony before the Judiciary Committee and Oversight and Government Reform Committee helps to fill in a lot of pieces in this very complex puzzle. But his report only covers the Clinton matters, and even those are not completely covered. So many questions about other aspects in comparing and contrasting these two investigations. That's what we're about, making sure that we do not have that kind of bias reflected in a future presidential campaign by anybody of any party, and 2020 is not that far off.
If you think about this, if the Federal Bureau of Investigation was investigating as to whether or not Russia was meddling in a national election, why would that information not be shared with the campaign that was targeted?
That's a very good question. And we're going to, as we proceed here, and we have a number of high-level witnesses that will be coming up here in the next several weeks. We have the FBI director and the Deputy Attorney General testifying in public tomorrow before the Judiciary Committee. So these are questions that are going to be brought to light.
This is not under oath, right? This is just a question. And is it fair to say a question and answer session? Is that how you describe it?
Yes. We first of all, we said that we were going to subpoena him because we had tried for weeks to get him in. Then his attorney said, well, he'll come voluntarily, which creates a different set of circumstances. Then we got a lot of uncooperation about setting that time, so I issued a subpoena last Friday, and then again earlier this week it turned into a voluntary interview again. It is something that allows both sides more latitude in gathering information, so we're very comfortable with the format that we have, and we will hold a public hearing with Mr. Strzok in the very near future.
So that will happen?
That will.
Is there a date?
Not yet.
Will you have Lisa Page appear as well?
There are lots of discussions about a lot of witnesses in this case, and she is certainly on that list.
Well, sir, thank you for your time. I know you want to get inside that room, and we'll see how long it goes. I expect this to go several hours, late into the afternoon. Is that a fair assessment?
I think that's a good guess.
Okay. We'll see what we learn.
Lots of questions.
Bob Goodlatte, I hope you come back, okay? Thank you for your time today. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Bill.